my name's Lindsay Higgins. I represent Investor Property in Canberra here, and I'm a property coach, as we call it, which is someone who sits down with the client, finds out what they're looking at achieving and helps them develop a plan around that, and then goes out and finds property and helps them work through the whole thing. We project manage the builds from start to finish and handle the after-sales service as well from a rental perspective, providing up to 10 years of rental assurance. So I'm here to find out how I can connect with more people to help them build their wealth through property, as I have done. Thank you.
We need a clapper.
Yeah, that's it. Scene one.
Yeah, so anyway, thanks for coming along. And I guess what I want to go through today is to understand, sort of what you're doing, your problem, or, what you're trying to achieve. And we'll have a go with the cards and look at, try and pick a scenario that sort of suits what you're doing and use that to stimulate some ideas and some thinking, and then we'll have a discussion through some potential solutions. Does that sound cool?
Sounds awesome.
Okay, great. So, where are you at the moment, Lindsay?
My social media skills are currently zero. I don't use Facebook or Twitter or any of those things.
I couldn't even find you on LinkedIn.
There you go. I don't have one. Well, someone invited me years ago. As far as I'm aware, I don't exist in that realm.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is because I went a bit afraid of trying to deal with a multitude of connections. I don't really want to have to check a Twitter feed, an email, a Facebook, something else. As it is, I've got a work email and a home email, and that's enough for me. Unless there's some sort of system I can build in that's going to assist me in doing so. But at the same time, I realise that's keeping me invisible as far as a social media presence for other people.
Yeah.
So,
well, Property Investor does have a presence, I think out of Queensland.
Okay.
So they've got a page set up.
Yep.
And they had quite a few fans, so I think they have a few thousand fans on there. So they're doing some things with it. I think mostly on Facebook. I haven't really seen a strong presence from the other mediums.
Right.
So I guess, what is it you're trying to achieve moving forward? What are the sort of things you want for your business here?
So effectively, some sort of business social media presence that will capture interest from people who are looking in that area.
Yep.
I don't necessarily want to do business in that way.
Yep.
And I don't want my personal presence out there because I'm not going to be updating it, etc.
Yeah.
So it's pointless. It's just another occupier and busy enough as it is.
Yeah. And do you have an email list at all, or a physical mailing list that you deal with?
Yeah.
Okay, so physical or email?
More both.
Okay, cool.
I mean, mainly I phone people or email.
Yeah.
But as I build up client base, I obviously get other details as well.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I just recently did a lumping mail out. What's it called? Yeah, direct mail.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. So you're doing a little bit of engagement with those groups already, those individuals. Okay. Yep. So most of your clients are what sort of people? They've already owned homes and they're looking for investment, or are you dealing with first homeowners, or is it a spread?
Most of the people would tend to be older people who are coming close to retirement and suddenly get a wake-up call that they're not ready.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean that's the optimum client.
Yes.
I would prefer they woke up a bit earlier and gave more time for us to do something with.
Yep.
But typically that's the situation.
Okay, so you say 50s or even in 40s?
Occasionally. Most of them are 50s.
Okay. That's a little bit harder demographic to attract online anyway.
Well, as I say, they're not the ultimate. They're not the best client in one aspect. I mean, I can assist them, but it would be better to get younger people or people who are have more time, because to build an investment portfolio you need time and capacity. And very few people who get to 50, if they haven't invested already, have either.
Yeah.
So
okay. So
my ultimate client is 40 or less.
Yeah.
Just I don't have too many of them.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So it's an audience you're not really reaching at the moment, but it's the one you prefer to have.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, well, I guess something to look at. I suppose for yourself, is it about building the business's presence and positioning, or is it about building your positioning and presence?
It's a good question. I mean, my personal belief is people deal with people.
Yes.
I guess the qualification is that the investor property is very careful about their marketing and what's put out there, and it has to all be vetted through them. So it causes quite a lot of restrictions. You know, they won't even allow a sign on my car because it doesn't fit their under 3-year-old requirement. So I would like to reach a wider audience, but at the same time, with the amount of limitations, restrictions, the boss just simply doesn't have the time to go through it anyhow. They'll say, oh, we'll do something up. And it's not always applicable or appropriate or cost effective. Yeah. So I think I really have to promote myself rather than the company. And more as a generic investment real estate type of thing. And then when people come to me, I will then simply channel them through investor property.
Okay.
That's probably the best way to do it.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, I think sort of the scenario almost selects itself in a way.
Right.
If you're looking for a scenario as such.
So does that mean I have to do a personal profile out there? Or?
Well, that's what I'd start to look at is, building an expert reputation. Okay. So you want to be the person that people come to for advice and support in this space.
Okay.
And then you basically can sell the business and do the things you do through the organisation.
Right.
But that gives you the flexibility to basically do what you need to do without necessarily the same level of interaction in terms of what sells the brand appropriately. I think you still have to align yourself. You need to make sure it's all appropriate. But if you're positioned as the expert, people come to you, and then through you they get to know the business and get a good opinion of the business as well. So I would actually start. I'd start to say let's look at building an expert reputation, because that, and also positioning it within a certain demographic, because you're already building that sort of with 50 pluses, so you've already got a lot of clients there. So it's about now targeting the slightly younger group. And it's interesting because I remember back in the day going along to those property investment sessions and seminars and things like that that were held. I think they're still held down here by a few groups, but nowhere near the same level as it used to be.
Okay.
Because I think the market has gotten a lot hotter, and there are less people there's less margin in it necessarily for the people who are selling properties, so to speak. But there's just as much need, if not more, for people to think about, future and how do you actually build that nest egg. Yeah. Okay, so what we have with the cards is, firstly, we've got the build the expert reputation there. So put all the other scenarios aside. These are all the social media cards, so it might be easiest if you start laying them out, and we'll go through and sort of firstly cross things out. They're just not going to pop out, so you can lay them out on the table or just do other things with them.
Just, so we do like a group of them or just individual work through?
Well, let's lay them out and then we'll start pulling them off. Like open data platforms, not going to be useful to you at all. You don't need real-time social simulations. They're used for emergency testing and preparation and customer service testing. Social networks for children and teens are not going to be on your radar, and neither is really online games or enterprise social networking, which is within an organisation. So you can get rid of lots of things straight away.
So I don't know if that one there, video sharing, I thought it mightn't hurt to, get even on the phone or something, a little video reference from people that I can stick on a website. So I don't know if that's applicable in that regard.
Yeah, look, definitely that sort of thing is a good idea, and I think testimonials very, very powerful in any relationship-based business.
Sure. Yeah.
Getting a little 2-3 minute video of somebody's talking about how you've helped them and what they think your strengths are.
Okay.
It's very good. There's actually 4 questions that I can get you later, which are used by some people to basically say, ask these 4 questions to get a response to sort of cover the whole scope. They're very good questions, so I'll get them to you a bit later.
Thanks, mate.
So don't need project management so much. Don't need to have your own forums, I don't think. How much of a writer are you? Are you a writer, or are you do you prefer to do things, talking, or what's your preferred mode of communicating?
I prefer to speak to people directly or over the phone.
Okay.
So direct, but face to face or over the phone. I do emails, but I find them laborious and it doesn't help. Very often I use pictorial examples as I speak or write, and I find that very difficult to do in an email. And very much of the time in investment or real estate type stuff, you're trying to get a concept across, and you have to be really careful of how you say it without implying a particular result.
Yes.
Because
which hits the financial requirements.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And also to unintentionally mislead the client. I always under-promise to over-deliver.
Yep.
And if I'm using an example in there that whatever it is, and they get an idea that, it's $100,000 in this deal, whether there is or not, if that is perceived to be presented, and then for some reason they don't get that, then they're going to be unhappy and have potential to have a go. So, it's more getting across ideas and concepts and experiences people have had and saying, look, we can't be certain for the future. Here's what we do to make our best guess and to ensure a good outcome.
Yep.
So, does that answer it?
Yes. So that means I'd probably discount blogs. Because I don't think writing blog posts will necessarily be what you're comfortable doing.
Sure.
And I'd avoid doing things that you're uncomfortable doing. Okay. Document and slide sharing. I don't know if you've got any slideshows that you've done. Not so much? No.
That doesn't mean necessarily. If there's things that you think may perhaps be done but I can do or engage someone else to do perhaps, then I'm happy to consider that sort of stuff.
Maybe, but I'd also say, well, if you've got the content and you're able to deliver it, sort of in a spoken way, then I would suggest looking at videos and podcasts instead, and deliver it that way.
Okay.
Because I think both video is often more powerful,
right? And
also the difference between doing a written blog and a video blog, it's a different medium, but at the same point, it's about finding whichever medium is comfortable for you.
Sure.
So if the blog posts are being either written by somebody else or they're your words from the video taken down, it's essentially a transcript, you may as well just focus on the video itself.
Okay, sure.
Have a transcript available for people who are more verbal.
Yeah.
But what you'll find, today about 70% plus of people are visual anyway.
Okay.
It's sort of the legacy of 60 plus years of television.
Right.
And you'll find that with younger people, they're even more visual in a lot of respects.
Okay.
Because again, they've been brought up with screens. And these days, even your keyboard is a screen, so to speak, when you're dealing with tablets and things.
Yeah.
So visual works very, very well with that group.
Okay.
Words are still very valuable, but words are for that really in-depth information which you're trying to communicate concepts and using diagrams, and I think you'll find that's easy to do, to a camera with a whiteboard behind you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I do want to not rely totally on me being the person that they're seeing all the time. I'd like to have a variety of people or mediums that is presenting information. You can get sick of the same person or same voice over and over. And I guess what I would like also to do, there's a number of people you come across, especially that as they get closer to retirement, they get more pressured or stressed about it, and every decision becomes more critical.
Yes.
And a lot of these people are really still, even though they don't have time, information mode.
Yep.
So what I want to be able to do is provide some means for them to, if they're not ready to do something at the present, here's a course to go down to get educated.
Okay.
And find out some information or understanding about how to structure it financially, what drives growth, how assumptions are made as far as compounding annual growth rates, and how depreciation affects things, and how to maximise tax returns, those sort of things to help them understand the picture, because there is a portion of people that until they understand aren't prepared to act.
Yes.
Even though
they won't know everything.
Yeah, even though I'll hold their hand and walk the journey through with them.
Yeah.
It's a bit like on-the-job training. You can never know everything before you start.
Yeah.
A lot of people have this, I need more information to make a decision. Well, you don't, but if you feel that way, go and check this out.
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of ways you can do that. There's obviously third parties who provide a variety of financial information, but you don't control what they put up and how relevant it is.
Yep.
The other way is you can look at whether you can do it through the company, and that's a commitment really the owners would have to agree to, and they'd have to sort of invest in it. So I don't know how far that would go. The other way is for you to put that together, and if you did that, yes, some of it could be sort of text-based, some of it video, some of it variety, but you just have to be careful of what that line is and making sure you're on the right side of it. Yeah. So,
Look, I'm not against doing that. I mean, I've always had a desire to educate and teach people anyhow. And as long as you're not, with the finance side, if you're not doing personal advice and it's general and you can disclaim it with general information, etc. The only thing I've got to be careful of is not actually representing investor property in that, because they wouldn't.
No. Well, I think it would be a good standalone anyway, because it has a lot of value for people, and it is often, people get bits and pieces of it, but it's very hard for them to get it all in a comprehensive sort of package. Everybody wants to drip feed you this stuff. I've never understood why that is. And I guess you're still talking about the older people.
Variety. I'm thinking my kids here, they've got, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've got so much information up here. I just can't give it to people in a couple of hours like they'd like.
No.
30 minutes is really the better. So, I've got to give them information in a way that they can absorb over time. Perhaps, ebooks or videos or a variety of...
Well, let's keep going through these, because there's some things in here to look at around that.
And I understand this is not going to be done in a week.
Oh, no.
Or 30 minutes.
No. I'm going to keep your idea out. Some of these we might get rid of. Do you do any commenting on third-party networks? Things like the old Somerset Soft Forum, what it's become now?
I haven't done.
No? Okay. Let me just have a quick look through these. Okay, so that one can go down. That one can go down. So I guess, the whole idea, okay, so let's look at it this way. Firstly, we're looking at positioning you rather than positioning the company. So that's one thing, because you've already talked about why it's easier to position you. You've got that knowledge and experience. So the first thing is, you do need a LinkedIn presence. So you are going to need something up there, and I'd say that's kind of number one.
Yep.
And because that's the medium where professionals go to look up other professionals and to understand their skills, their experience, the various things that go with that.
Okay.
So I would start there. Facebook is, I think, a nice to have, but not an essential. Because the thing with Facebook is it is more social in nature, and what you'll find is a lot of the people you deal with regularly are going to have Facebook pages. So connecting to them that way, it gives you a way, if you're friends with them, to actually to have a look at where they are in life stages. Yep. So you'll be able to see from there, sometimes from your customers, as to whether they're now in a position to potentially, be looking at buying again, whether there's an issue in their lives where they might need some extra money to come out of the existing portfolio. There's things like that. You just get a sort of a flow of things. But it's far less critical for you in terms of that professional reputation. That's more a connection tool.
Can that be done in a business environment, or is it like I mean, most people use it for social stuff, and I'm just not going to. I just don't have time for that.
Yeah, well, I think it's not so much that you use it for social stuff, but that you set it up and use it as a professional, as associated to the LinkedIn. So, when you're publishing content, you'd publish it, but you'd keep it very much to professional. So it wouldn't be for your personal friends, it would be for your customers and giving them information. It may even lead into a group, but I'd be cautious about that versus Investor Property. Investor Property already has a strong Facebook page. And I think that's a way to link them into the organisation. But I think for you to have one, at least to republish, the sort of the content you're talking about publishing, the stuff that helps people make their decisions, that's something that should be published up through Facebook as well, because you're just going to find that 97% of adult Australians who are on social media have a Facebook presence. So that's a starting point.
I mean, someone set one up for me a couple of months ago. Well, actually, no, Jane Allen, and but I haven't looked at it. Don't know how to use it, etc. But the what's come out of it is a number of people have invited themselves, or whatever it is, or asked me to link in or however that works. Trying to do the friend thing, and so because they haven't connected yet, because I'm like, well, I haven't got anything to connect them with. Potentially, I mean, these people are friends or associates or people I know who may well be interested in the business side. And probably would. So I would like to take advantage of that, but without obligating myself to writing everything about my world on there and taking time to do that.
You really aren't obligated to do that. You can connect on there. Like I'm not a big Facebook user myself for personal stuff. I go on there every couple of days to monitor what people I'm connected to are doing, that sort of thing. But I very uncommonly publish anything through it. I'm more likely to share things that I see or comment on other people's comments where relevant. So you don't need to use it to share for yourself. You can use it in a strictly professional way, and in fact you need to communicate that through the profile, saying pardon me, that it's your professional it's for professional engagement. Be sharing information related to investing in property, and basically helping people go through that process. Let's get rid of some more stuff here that we can kind of get rid of. So simulations, doc collaboration, these bits and pieces. I don't think you're going to be doing much web analytics because you're not really excited necessarily by doing the numbers behind a website, how many people, and so on.
Happy to get someone else to do that, on my behalf, as I said. Because I know you can get people to do blogging stuff for you, for example. Well,
you can. You always have to be careful because you can lose your voice, and so, because a lot of I find a lot of the benefit in blogging is when it's your voice and it's your voice going out there. So if it's somebody else's voice, you need to be very careful to make sure that they're actually portraying what you want them to portray. Particularly when you're building your own reputation, because if they're taking the wrong tone, they can kind of cause confusion in people, because they're kind of saying, well, I thought he was like this and actually he's like this. Because it just, tone can change a lot in a blog post. Same, you wouldn't have somebody stand in front of a video pretending to be you.
That makes total sense.
I'm going to put down the podcasting with the video sharing. Podcasting is quite useful because it can be derived from videos quite often, because it's video without the actual visuals. But what it also is when you're dealing with professionals, they're often in their cars and they can do podcasts, they can't do video. So it's a really good way to reach into people's spaces and basically allow them at their own pace absorb information that they then use in various ways. So it can be quite valuable, and it doesn't require a lot of overhead when you're already doing the videos so much. Image sharing, I'm going to put in there temporarily. Don't need that one. I would stay away from Twitter for you. Because I don't think... Twitter is a great way to build presence and engagement, but you have to be on there. You have to engage constantly and you know, sort of quality engagement. I don't think that's you.
No.
So don't do that. Don't need that or that. We'll get rid of the live video streaming. It's really good for events and things.
Sure.
But get rid of the connectors. So I know you've got an email list, but you're not really doing any marketing automation or any sort of follow-ups with people or sequences.
Look, I haven't done. I guess part again, because of the restrictions around their marketing, etc. It's not something I can comfortably do easily. I guess the advantage, if I am promoting myself and they are my clients, that I can then sell stuff to through Investor Property. It means that I'm not limited by that sort of stuff, and I could use that type of thing. I mean, they do email or mail. What's it called? I don't know.
What's an email?
EDMs or something.
Okay.
Email
direct marketing.
Yeah. So you know that happens from time to time. I don't know. Well, there's an option maybe.
Well, I think more importantly is how you can use it in knowledge sharing. So can you have a sequence of emails which provides knowledge to people? So it's another way of delivering.
Well, I talked to Tim recently about some CRM of some sort, and and he was talking about getting that sort of concept up and running. Because the company has their own CRM, and I guess they use it with the database that they've got, I'm not too concerned about that. But if I did do my own presence, then it would be something that would be helpful.
Yeah.
But I would certainly want it automated because, again, I don't want to have to be doing that regularly myself.
Well, automated means you do it once. You've got a series of pieces of content that go out to people, every couple of days. And, maybe at the end of 2 weeks, you then say, would you like to have a chat about, investing now or saying, where are you now in terms of your investment readiness? I can say, I'm ready now, I'm going to be ready in a few months, I don't want to speak to you for a year, and you can kind of use that to move people into, the purchase, sort of decision-making, investment decision-making process.
Okay.
But mostly I see it around, getting that knowledge shared with people, because some people will quite happily go online and read things or watch things. Some of them need to be prompted by emails. Say, hey, I know you looked at this a couple of days ago, here's the next piece. And you can feed it out to them in small chunks so it's absorbable by them. And because it's in their email box, it's a lot harder to ignore than it's just sitting on a website somewhere that they have to choose to go to.
Look, I'm comfortable in putting together a plan that, some of it's easy to implement and some's going to be a bit harder, and I just work on those bits as and when I can.
Exactly.
So, I'm comfortable in that staying there.
Well, I think, commenting in third-party forums, it's always nice to do, and that helps build your reputation, but again, it requires a lot of work and dedication, and I think you don't necessarily have the time.
Yeah, it's not something I do. So.
No, exactly. And always with this social media stuff, don't try and do stuff you not comfortable doing.
Yeah. There's
no point. Like, again, I would get rid of, commenting in third-party social networks. So you're not going to comment on other people's Facebook pages or things like that. Or in their blogs, necessarily. Social sharing is just something you'd attach by default. And I'm moving away from the points now because we have a certain points level, but we're more dealing with actually solving what you're doing. So your idea is the online knowledge course material. And I guess one thing you could do to lead into that is to actually ask people, have a list of topics and things that you know of, and ask people what their priorities are.
Sure.
Because that would then tell you what content to do first.
Okay, yep.
And that's very useful because it also tells you what content they don't want at all, they're getting from somewhere else. So it lets you kind of focus in and give them the stuff they actually want, so their relationship with you improves and they see you as more of the expert in that space.
Okay.
I would definitely recommend just separately having that social network, and what you do is having that LinkedIn page, and what you do is you would create the content, probably in your case, I would suggest creating it to camera or in an interview style.
Okay. Yeah.
Like if you want to sit down with someone and do interviews, a series of interviews, and say, let's talk about X today. And the focus can be on you, but the interviewer gives you a point of focus and puts you in that face-to-face situation that you're most comfortable with.
Right, yeah.
And that gives you a good way to share your knowledge. And you can either cut out the other person entirely or have it featured as series of interviews.
Right, yeah.
You might want to do it with a whiteboard so you can do diagrams, etc. on that. And that works all really well to film. And then what you can do is, repurpose that as podcasts very easily. So video editing you can get done through online services. There are people out there who do video editing.
Okay.
You get an online service to basically say, hey, I need somebody in the world to edit my video. This is the sort of standard I need. And then they will pitch to you and you can look at their stuff and basically say, well, yeah, I think that person will do it well or not.
Gotcha.
I use a video editor in Serbia who is fantastic. So he'll be having a go through this video afterwards and making it prettier, taking out all the awkward bits.
There's a blog for you, plug for you.
Yeah. Yeah, but so it's quite easy to get those sort of services today. You don't have to spend hundreds or thousands to someone locally anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
So that makes it easy to basically identify what content you want to actually go out there and demonstrate your expertise in, and then create the content first through video, then into podcasting, a little bit of image sharing where there are particular diagrams you're using that actually lend themselves to that. And that could be, you've heard of infographics?
No, but I sort of get a bit of an idea.
Yeah, the idea is that you present the information in a very visual way because lots of people are better off at absorbing information when it's presented visually.
Yep.
And the absorption rate is significantly higher than if it's presented to them in words.
Okay, sure.
So, it's possible that some of the things that you draw on the board will convert well into images, things to share, but that's a kind of a maybe. And then you distribute them through these two channels, through your LinkedIn profile, through your Facebook profile. So your LinkedIn profile is sort of establishing you and your expertise and your background. And that will be, for example, when you meet someone new and they're potentially considering your services, they might go and look at your LinkedIn profile to see who you are.
Yep.
Then when you're actually in a relationship with them where they're starting to deal with you, they're talking to you, they're potentially buying property through you, then they're more likely to switch into the connect to you via Facebook.
Sure.
Because that becomes more of the deeper relationship rather than just the professional, let's check this person out and see if he knows his stuff.
Okay.
So that's kind of the transition. And what you do over time is you'd still build up a network of colleagues through your LinkedIn profile, but you would actually build up your customers more through your Facebook.
Okay.
So that would be where the people who have relationships with you, and you would be able to deliver them the content you're putting out, or third-party stuff that you're aware of, or the stuff that Investor Property brings out, you'd push out primarily through the Facebook, because that's primarily your customers, and a little bit into LinkedIn to demonstrate your competence and your relationships. I don't think it's worth investing in a separate blog or a website or anything like that for you.
Okay.
But I think what you can do where you have content that warrants it is actually blog through LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has what it calls Pulse, which is a blogging platform for notable information. So you can basically put your blogs through there, and that will get you, that also strikes a broader audience as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you'd link people from your Facebook page to go and look at your blog posts there. So that would kind of be the core of it. The marketing automation comes in if you're also dealing with the email list, and you don't necessarily have to because Investor Property already has one. What you may want to work with them on is saying, well, hey, I'm putting this content out here. It might be valuable for clients elsewhere in Australia for Investor Property to see this content, these courses, and actually have them send it out. Now, that might take time, but rather than duplicating what they're already doing, you're better off focusing on these two things, I think, initially. But the key is actually finding out, and this might be the first thing you actually do, is using...
Just back on that.
Yep.
The EDMs that they put out are mainly just promotion of a particular, investment opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily connecting with them and teaching stuff. So I guess what I'm looking for is, if a customer's ready or they're not. Typically, and if they're not, they're generally not looking for the perfect deal. They're out there looking for more information or understanding or something that demonstrates to them that you're doing well, because they get promotions of stuff from everyone.
Yes.
So I actually want to be different to that.
Yep.
Rather than sending them another product that they don't know if it's any better than the next one. I want to try and give them something that helps them understand why investor property is good, or why the product that I would promote to them stands out above the rest. So I don't know if that sort of changes that.
Look, I think it's a little bit after thing, because I think the first thing is to find out what people need. And get enough content created. And then it's about thinking about, can you deliver it to clients through this approach as well. So, but the first thing is you need the content in order to set up some of this process, but the first thing is to find out what people need. And I'd also suggest in this process, you talked about the video testimonials, I would also suggest possibly some interviews with some of your customers or your clients where they're happy to do that, to basically talk about how they got to the point of making an investment decision.
Gotcha.
And actually talk about what they needed to know and what they and what process they went through. Because there'll be a lot of people out there who have sort of similar kind of needs. And it always helps if people can identify with someone, because they won't identify with you because you're the expert. What they'll be looking for you is the knowledge that fills their gaps. But if they can see somebody else in their same shoes who was here and then they're here with an investment property and building their portfolio, they'd be very interested in that. There's one down there, Carl.
Okay.
Yes, you can unplug it.
I mean, in the past, I would certainly do that a lot with people when I was promoting investor property as a referral partner. So I would do exactly that. Like, here's where I was stuck, wasn't sure what to do. They came along, I checked them out, it was a bit sus. So I'd have a go. The results are great. So I was very strong in helping me refer to the fellow that sold stuff, and then when he said, right, I step in as a coach, well, I've got to change that now. That model doesn't work real well for referring myself. But I think in a way, one way to think of it is that you are sort of an investment coach. That's exactly what we call ourselves. Exactly. And that's what you're doing. You're coaching somebody through the process to the point where they can invest on their own behalf. And I would definitely recommend getting along to Suzette's course around the designing a course and coming up with it, because I think that would help you sort of quantify the content you've got in mind and how you might deliver it in a sequence and an order, because that both allows you to potentially develop an online course, which sits in your idea, but also decide how you would sequence it if you're delivering it to someone who they're signed up to say, I want to know more about investing, I'm at this spot. And you say, okay, I've got a sequence of content for someone at that spot to help them move to the next spot. And then you can test that, with each piece of content, you can get them to give you feedback and say, is this what you needed? And that then keeps letting you test and basically make sure that you're delivering the right content to the right people at the right time to move them to the next step. And I guess that's this is hopefully going to be a long-term thing, so that would make a lot of sense to do that. And I tend to move a bit slower than I'd like, but at the same time sort of carefully. So I'm very happy to have an overall picture and then just work towards completing that and that one. So how does your points thing work that you were referring to? Well,
the way the points work is in a scenario you're supposed to have a certain amount of points to spend in order to achieve that goal. But we kind of put that aside because, we used the scenario, but it was actually what you're really trying to do. And I always say when you're doing your own, throw away the points idea and actually work out a strategy that makes sense to you. So the points are really to force people to make choices, when they're trying this out for the first time, to actually experiment with different options. That's right. But when you're dealing with someone's actual, I'm trying to do this in my business, and I say, ignore the points level.
Yep.
Or the other way is treat them as number of cards rather than number of points.
Oh,
and you've got 9 cards, so that kind of works.
Yeah.
But I think, you've got two streams here going on, and one of them is the build your professional presence online, which is through, LinkedIn and Facebook is a bit of a catchment. But Facebook only becomes valuable to you when you've got the professional content. Whereas the LinkedIn is still that, sort of that stake in the sand that says, I'm here, this is my expertise, this is what I know. And you can set up a LinkedIn profile and not change it and never do anything with it.
Yeah.
It's still valuable because it sits in Google. So amongst all the Lindsays of the world, you turn up as well.
Okay.
And I did have a look in LinkedIn for you, and every Lindsay I found was actually female.
How about that?
So, and I could not see you anywhere. So, and I think that's something a lot of people look for, particularly professional people down here in Canberra, is they will stalk you online.
Okay.
And even if your business is nothing to do with online,
they still want to see some presence to go, well, he's been,
it shows that you're real.
Yeah, exactly.
That you actually exist these days.
And I understand that is the whole purpose of it.
Yes.
Which is why, this is helpful because part of my real estate training course and everything is to do, they talk about Facebook and LinkedIn and all the rest, but talking about how they operate doesn't necessarily assist you in using them.
No.
Like I can, tell you all the technical details of this phone and what it does and how it connects, but that doesn't help you actually make a call.
No.
And do business.
No, exactly. It's often all the theory and not the practice.
Yeah. So doing this is very helpful with you here to guide me through it.
Yeah.
Because I would have been forever looking through that going, I don't know.
Well,
what does it even mean?
I think there's a further session. I sit down and help you set some of these things up. And there's actually a LinkedIn course that is being run down here in Canberra by Raging Digital that's very, very good.
Right.
Tim's been on it, so you can ask him for an opinion.
Okay.
He went on the beta, I think. But constructing a LinkedIn profile to be effective for you, because a LinkedIn profile can be used for a couple of different things.
Gotcha.
So, somebody who wants a job uses it. Somebody who is establishing their professional credentials for some reason.
Yep.
And people trying to become speakers, use it, and the variety of different nuances and how it's used. And of course, recruiters use it to keep a stable of people they can potentially look up and go to.
Sure.
I would also start looking at, once you're actually on LinkedIn, I think testimonials on LinkedIn would be useful as well. Because getting a testimonial on LinkedIn from somebody who you've done business with goes against the role, so people will see it in there, but also you can take that testimonial and reuse it in other things as well.
Are you talking about a written,
It's a written testimonial. Yeah, it's
So
not
I
that
can
video
use-
testimonial.
I can use
but
ones
it's
that
written.
I've currently got, for example?
No. The
They
way
have
it
to do
works
it
is
on
people
LinkedIn.
have to do it on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
People have to do it on LinkedIn, but it's a good way to collect testimonials from people after you've done things with them.
Right.
Because it can be a less confrontational way to invite people to leave a testimonial.
Right.
So I found it's quite useful to get people who are not always as comfortable face to face. If you said, "Give me a testimonial," they feel a bit uncomfortable about that directness.
Yeah.
LinkedIn takes that sting out of it.
Okay.
But I think definitely if first thing is if you get together an online survey to your customers and as wide a group of people that you associate with and say, look, I'm trying to, I want to create a number of resources based on my 20 years experience, establishing yourself in that too, that will help people make investment decisions or however you want to word that so it doesn't ping any things, because you're about helping people get to the point where they are able to make a decision more than basically trying to help them make a better decision, because that's that can move into advice side, because it can be more individual, and ask them, give them a list of a dozen things that you think people need, and then leave some race for them to add their own and say, which of these things would be most important for you.
Gotcha.
And get them to tell you what content they actually need. And they might come back with some interesting things in the comments that you hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
And then you use that to basically then create the content. As I said, you can, I think your style is better placed to recording it or audioly rather than writing it down. And maybe in an interview style or something like that. Then you can get that produced, also turned into just audio. Any images out of it you can do something with, and then that content feeds straight back into these. And you can do it episodially, so you could do one every month to start with or something like that. And that might take you a total of 2 hours because you already have the topic people have said. So it's a matter of sitting down with someone for an hour, then sending it off to someone. They will do their magic, then it comes back, and then you just have to upload it, and then you have to tell people that it's there, and that's it. And then having that, and then you can have a way for people to give you feedback on it to say, that really hit the mark, or, really need to know a bit more about this bit of it. And that then may feed you into more content. So you're starting to create a bit of a loop where people are engaging with you, engaging with your content, they're telling you what they need, and they're moving closer to making a decision and therefore giving you the business. And
the more people connect, the more they can, like, people prefer to do with something they know or like, or both. So, like a large number of clients in the past have known me, have known who I am, what I'm like, and there's a lot of trust there. But people who don't know me, I want to give them the opportunity to find out about me and get the impression or feeling they do based on information that's out there, more than just turning up and saying, "Hey, do you want to rate house?"
Yes. And that's what a combination of these things do together. And I think that's an issue that everybody strikes in business sooner or later. Is when you start out a business, if you're already well established and you've got a career and got lots of networks, you start off by going to family and friends of friends where you have implied authority and knowledge and expertise because people know you already. But once you start growing beyond a certain point or you exhaust those networks, you've got to start dealing with strangers. And that's the harder bit, and that's where you need the testimonials and the examples of your credibility and your expertise, because otherwise they're trying to make a decision between a couple of people, none of whom they know, and they only know what they either see of you in person or they see of you online. And they're likely to spend more time looking at you online than you'll get with them in person up front.
Definitely.
You can always move them
video
across.
Thing would be really helpful in that regard, perhaps.
Oh, definitely. Because again, you put them up through something like YouTube. So again, YouTube is the world's second largest search engine. So that also gives you a lot of cut through and a lot of capability to build sort of awareness. There are people who built entire careers on YouTube channels just simply sharing knowledge, and information on various topics. And
when you say entire careers, what do you mean? As then they go into speaking roles or something? Or?
Well, they actually earn money through advertising on Facebook, on YouTube, and that actually gives them quite a big revenue, because once you've got a sufficiently sized audience. But these are people who publish daily, and that's kind of not where you're aiming to go. But but it's just the thing
sounds
that
weird. YouTube.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, they're called YouTubers. But they are actually some of them have made the transition into television and other things. Like there've been television shows that have come out of YouTube series. So what you're really looking at there is that essentially, if people can build an audience, then they can basically build a perception of their expertise to a much wider group, and potentially you leverage that into income as well, one way or another. They do it through the advertising and through appearances and other things. In your case, you do it through moving them to an investment decision and then helping them through that that process, and then working with them afterwards when they get to the point where they want to make more decisions.
And that's the ultimate goal with investor property is to get clients who we want to help build a portfolio. So it's not about one house. We don't make enough for that to be profitable. And there's a lot of companies out there who don't mind doing that because they're gouging and make a bucket load out of each one, but that's not what we do. So we've got to have a client that repeats, and so that's the whole aim.
Well, you need an established relationship, that long-term relationships. Yeah, and that's why you need you do need a presence to do that as well. Because again, you build the business past a certain size, and you can't call every client every month.
Yeah.
And you don't know where they are in this sort of their investment journey, but you can get clues of it through these things, which help you say, hey, it's time to re-engage with this person.
Yeah.
And that will over time start helping you with those things. It'll take a little while to build that up. But the knowledge is part of it too, because as people look through your knowledge, if you use a marketing automation system, you can basically look at, understand who has seen what and when, and then you can look at that process and say, okay, this person has just gone through this whole series on, buying off the plan or something like that, and say, well, it's time to actually, make an offer to them or talk to them about that kind of approach or whatever's relevant. So it actually helps identify for you who are the people who are most likely to be ready to buy, at the time when you actually kind of engage them.
Okay.
But again, those things take time to build up. You've got to go through this part first. You've got to establish yourself. You've got to build some of that content out. I can certainly help with survey and things and getting that all up and running.
Cool. Thank you. So does that wrap up your...
Yeah, pretty much. That wraps up the bulk of it. I would like you to just do a piece to camera about who you are and what you're doing. Okay. That would be handy, just because I use that as sort of an establishment, say, why you're here, what you're doing, sort of thing. But other than that, does that help for you?
It is, but obviously, through taking it through to completion is the ultimate thing. So
that's all right. Look, I can definitely help you with the doing.
Sure. I'm not necessarily saying you have to, but
no.
Unless I take it through, it's not going to be, of course. But that's my fault, not yours.
Well, that's always the case.
Yeah,
that's always the case. It's fine for somebody to plan to do something, but they've actually got to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Same with all your customers.
Yeah.